The medieval period was such a weird and wonderful time. There's things we'd look back on today for it that we'd think what they'd done was absolutely downright crazy. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. We're going to look back at 5 medieval medical procedures that are weird, wonderful, and probably extremely, extremely painful. So just a pre-warning here, if you are a bit squeamish, this video might not be the best for you to watch. But if you are going to watch it anyway, big props to you. To start off our magical list at number 1, we're going straight in with trepanation. Trepanation involved a physician cutting a hole into the skull of an individual suffering what some believe to be mental illness, a seizure, or a skull fracture. The holes were drilled to relieve the pressure on the skull from an injury, for example. With zero anaesthetic, this made the procedure particularly painful and even life-threatening. However, the survival rate of these operations was surprisingly high. There have been 8 skulls found from the period of the 6th to 8th century that showed evidence of trepanning. Of the 8 skulls, 7 showed signs of healing and survival. Even up to the modern day, trepanning has had its strong adherents. For instance, a Dutchman named Bart Hughes was so convinced by its usefulness that he performed the operation on himself using local anaesthetic, a scalpel and an electric drill in 1965. Hughes claimed that trepanning increases brain blood volume and thereby enhances cerebral metabolism. However, these claims aren't backed up by the research. So, if having a hole drilled in your head with no anaesthetic hasn't done it for you, we'll go straight to number 2, cataract removal. In medieval times, it was believed that the lens was in the centre of the eye. A cataract was thought to be an abnormal humour flowing in this previously clear space in front of the lens. A cataract means waterfall, hence the flowing. A procedure called couching was commonly used for treatment. To perform couching in the Middle Ages, a travelling surgeon would visit from town to town, performing the technique only on patients with very dense cataracts. The patient would be aligned so the sunlight was streaming over the surgeon's shoulder and towards the patient's face. An assistant would restrain the patient physically while the surgeon inserted a knife or needle into the eye to dislocate this lens. The eye would then be patched with wool soaked in either egg white, breast milk, or clarified butter. The improvement in vision could have actually made a significant impact on the patient's daily life. The patient was typically left with an unfocused eye, sort of like a camera with no lens. The amount of vision would only allow a person to read the huge letters found in a modern eye test, but not enough to read the Bible. By the time the information from the retained lens and disrupted capsule set in, the surgeon had already moved on to another town, and couching was largely unsuccessful technique with abysmal outcomes. So our first 2 methods, we've gone through drilling your skull and needles in your eye with no anaesthetic. So if those 2 haven't done it for you, we'll move on to something even more extreme. Hot irons for hemorrhoids. It happened. If you went to a healer or physician with hemorrhoids in the Middle Ages, you have had a few options for treatment. They range from painless and ineffective to painful and ineffective. In the Middle Ages, hemorrhoids were often called St. Phaeca's curse. It is said that St. Phaeca was working in his garden when he sat upon a stone. After sitting on a stone, he found that he was completely cured of his hemorrhoids, as he looked at the stone and saw an imprint of said hemorrhoids. Some physicians told their clients to sit upon a stone and hope for a cure from St. Phaeca. If this stone was not enough to cure the hemorrhoids, then physicians would resort to more extreme methods. Typically, this would involve cautery irons being inserted into the rectum in order to burn off the offending hemorrhoids. Other physicians would simply try and pull them off with their fingernails, as suggested by Hippocrates. Thankfully for those in the Middle Ages with hemorrhoids, real relief did arrive in the 12th century when physician Moses Maimonides wrote an extensive treatment on hemorrhoids. His recommendation for the hemorrhoids is to use the same one that is commonly used today, a sitz bath. So there's our first 3 medical procedures: trepanning, cataract removal, and hot irons. Just hope if you're in the Middle Ages you didn't need any one of those treatments, because I imagine with no anaesthetic you'd get a few tears in your eye. There'd be a few tears, let's be real. You'd cry a little bit. Anyway, on to our 4th, which isn't as painful as hot irons in the bum. It's bloodletting. Bloodletting is one of the most well-known medieval medical methods. The idea was that many illnesses were caused by an excess of blood. So then came the idea of bloodletting, to remove the excess blood either from leeches or cuts. As the process progressed through the Middle Ages, a system was developed. It was believed that bloodletting near the affected area was the best way to a cure. It was also written that certain veins and locations would affect different organs or illnesses. Books and instructions were released for physicians to follow so that they could have had the best results for their patients. It was bloodletting that led to the distinction between the doctor and the surgeon. A physician in the Middle Ages was likely to recommend bloodletting, but not likely to perform it. That was left to the barbers. the barber would be the one to cut the vein and drain the blood, sometimes not even under supervision of the physician. So it was up to the barber to know the specific medical trends at the time. Bloodletting was not a safe or reliable process. It was believed that enough blood had to be taken so the patient swooned or fainted. This created a delicate line between the right amount of blood and too much. It was not uncommon for a patient to be drained of too much blood and die, or to have their wound get infected. So our 4 medieval medical procedures are extremely painful. Now on to our 5th, which is less painful and more wacky. It's using animals to cure your illness. One of the most popular cures for an illness was the Vickery method, named after the English doctor Thomas Vickery, who first proposed it. A healthy chicken was taken and its back and rear plucked clean. This bare part of the live chicken was then applied to the swollen nose of a sick person and the chicken strapped in place. When the chickens showed signs of the illness, it was thought to be drawing the disease from the person. It was then removed, washed and strapped back on, and this continued until the chicken or patient died. There are a number of different medieval medical treatments that involved using different animals. Different animals and animal parts were believed to have many different healing effects on the patient. Many of these treatments had no real basis other than guesses, or they are steeped in the mythology and ancient practices. Insects could also be used. For example, to treat jaundice, a patient was to swallow 9 lice mixed with ale every morning for a whole week. One such cure was to wear donkey skin to treat rheumatism. The patient was to wear the entire skin of the donkey, ensuring that all their sore joints were covered by the hide. It was suggested that the skin not to be worn more than 14 days and not to wear it after it had begun to rot, as it might invite other illnesses. If a person was suffering from asthma, the cure was simple. All the patient had to do was swallow some young frogs. It is unclear why the frogs helped cure asthma, and there is no evidence to suggest that it would have been successful. To cure gout, the process was much more involved and similar to the treatment of quinsy. First, the physician would take a red-haired dog and boil it in oil. Then the physician would add worms, pig's marrow and a variety of different herbs to the pot. This would then be made into a mixture that could be smeared on the affected area. So there wraps up our list of weird and painful medieval treatments. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments which would be the worst one for you. I think mine would be number 3, the hot iron for hemorrhoids. But let me know if you've got any more that are disgusting and weird that I haven't discussed in today's video. So thank you for watching, everyone. If you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a big like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe. We're close to our goal of 300 subscribers and you can be part of that. So if you do subscribe, thank you. And everyone, go stay positive, go keep vibing, go enjoy your day, and peace out. I'll see you all next time. What the hell's a cautery iron? That went up where, boiling hot?